places.
Wakiso district,
Yes.
to be precise.
In Wakiso. Those who are planning to move out, step out, please make sure you plan very well for yourself so that you're not caught off guard. Keep yourself warm. Use alternative routes, especially if you know the routes you usually use, full of jam, and also the fact that it's raining. Some areas do tend to flood. Yeah, so it's a Friday, super excited, super hyped. The weekend is upon us. And I can't just wait to see what the weekend brings, and also anticipating what is to come in the next week. So today, I'm happy that we get to look at our usual stories we look at, talk about them, dissect them deeply, and discuss, and also involve our dear viewers who are watching us out there. This is Good Morning Uganda. Thank you for tuning in to watch us every morning. We are here live on UBC TV at our headquarters at Nile Avenue, and we want to keep inspiring you because you inspire us as well.
And well, at the start of the year, by the way, you get to notice that there was a trend that was ongoing of vintage shirts, and seeing you clad in one of those. On the X app, normally people were saying Chisati Masavu and the like. So I'm seeing you clad in a very lovely shirt this morning, which gears up for a Caribbean sort of a weekend for any viewer out there. But nonetheless, we are here and we are getting started. It is Friday. I tell you what, I don't know how your week was, but first put that aside. Try to wake up, get yourself geared up. Try to put yourself in a Friday mood. If things are not going on well for you so far, please pray about it and then move with high hopes. And the optimism that keeps you moving will definitely take you through your entire weekend. But Mara, before we go into our local stories to check in and give the viewers a view of what has been making headlines from Uganda and away from Uganda, what story stood out for you across the entire week, along the week rather?
Yes. So along the week, there's this particular story which takes us straight to Sironko district. Due to the heavy rains that have been happening, a makeshift ladder that is in Budidira something actually collapsed.
Budidira sub-county?
Yes. The makeshift ladder has been helping locals, especially with their businesses, the school-going children. This has been a route they've been using to go to school, and it has helped them explore that tough terrain that they have. But due to the downpour, there was a mudslide, and a rock just came in and shut down and crossed out the ladder. So they have been experiencing a few challenges here and there, and school-going children, over about 167 children have actually missed their
examinations, because some of the schools are having examinations, others are breaking off. So
yes. So the fact that the bridge was, the ladder has been closed off to those school-going children, the alternative route that they would have used is 10 kilometers longer. And they still have a makeshift ladder that they would still use to get down and also go through certain rocks. And it would make it very, very difficult. So over 168 pupils have missed exams. And even going back to the schools are still flooded. So it's been one of the stories that has stood out for me this week. They have called upon the Office of the Prime Minister, of course, Disaster and Preparedness, to come in and help them with this situation.
And we do hope the office does respond, because what is also happening with our neighbors in Kenya is that the flooding is continuously also ongoing, heavy rains. And clearly, when you look at matters to do with climate change, the same, that is a few weeks back, if you're to look back in the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, or Dubai, there was also a flooding that occurred and left the city having issues here and there. So when you look through matters to do with climate change and how different countries are trying to prepare for the same, you get to realize that with the ongoing flooding, and in the eastern part of Uganda, where mudslides have always been a very huge hindrance to so many things, or economic activities in there, and also for the safety of our Ugandans, you get to realize that it's something very critical that we need to look at as a country. But it has been a week filled up with lots of news and headlines across the entire country. And of course, that is why we've been here to take you through the same. But also, we managed to gather for you some news from the local scene news that have been making rounds across. And I'll start off off with a report regarding Uganda's oldest sports facility, Nakivubo Stadium, which was commissioned yesterday and opened for public use by President Yoweri Museveni. Now, the refurbishment by one of Uganda's leading businessmen, that is Hamis Chigundu, is estimated to have cost close to 200 million US dollars after years of refurbishment. Hamis Nakivubo Stadium, that is miles better than the original facility, has been commissioned and opened for use. The humble duty was performed by President Yoweri, who uploaded the proprietor Hamis Chigundu, to whom a 49-year lease was granted. Now, also, the president toured the 20-seater facility that is now officially a multi-purpose stadium with netball, basketball, and boxing. Some of the others are also likely to benefit because of the gym facilities that are part of this stadium that was officially commissioned. Now, President Yoweri Museveni applauded Hamis Chigundu, whom he exemplified as a true patriot whose intent on ensuring the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda has now turned into a reality. In its old state, Nakivubo Stadium was the country's only facility before Mandela National Stadium and was opened in 1926 to honor Uganda's World War veterans. The stadium proprietor, Hamis Chigundu, thanked the president for the trust and vowed to ensure the stadium lives to its intention of providing home of Ugandan sports. Now, elsewhere, President Yoweri Museveni has urged institutions to support families of those who die in line of duty, since they do a tremendous role in putting the country to order. The president said that although the late John Kagezi received various threats from her killers, it didn't deter her from continuing to serve the country. This was during the commemoration of John Kagezi's life at the Kololo Independence grounds, which was attended by quite a number of those from the judiciary and the family members of the late John Kagezi. And away from that, we now head to Parliament because the Parliamentary Committee on Budget has asked the Ministry of Finance and Finance, Planning and Economic Development to produce documents that indicate areas where they discovered ghost workers that paid close to 294 billion as per the Auditor General's report. The committee was meeting different ministries to discuss and approve their supplementary funding, where the ministry had requested for supplementary of 125.8 billion Ugandan shillings to pay workers already in posts this financial year of 2023-2024. The Budget Committee of Parliament has engaged different government ministries to discuss and approve their requests under funding of supplementary expenditure schedule number 2 for the financial year 2023-2024. Some of the requests that have been considered is the 9.156 billion shillings by Uganda Police compensation for officers in Zambia who are affected by the Kampala flyover project to have alternative accommodation for families. The committee has also approved the request of 3 billion shillings from the Ministry of Gender for Matters Day celebrations. Members of Parliament were, however, not satisfied with the criteria of these allocations to different faiths, especially Muslims, and the allocation to Kira municipality. Members of the committee were hesitant to approve the supplementary request by Ministry of Finance, which is 125.8 billion shillings for wage, pension and gratuity. The Minister for Finance in charge of general duties, Henry Musasizi, clarified that the request is to facilitate staff who are already in post and not for fresh recruitments. The total amount of funding for this supplementary expenditure is 1.1 trillion shillings. However, members discovered an extra 6.5 billion shillings, which the minister disowned, and this sparked off debate that made members propose to halt consideration of the document. Now, another supplementary request that is questionable and left hanging is the 578.4 billion shillings to support strategic pharmaceutical industrial investment. This is half the funding for supplementary expenditure for 2023-2024. And now, lastly, from our local news, the Minister for Information, Communication, Technology and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Baryomonsi, is content that Uganda is on the right path to digital revolution. Baryomunsi, who says that the future is digital, is alive to the fact that technology is here to stay. And this he said during the opening of a 2-day retreat for all agencies under the ICT Ministry. An engagement also met to orient members of the Parliamentary Committee of ICT on sector activities. Now, this was a collection of agencies and their representation under the ICT public sector. They are participating in a retreat meant to orient new entrants into the ICT sector and strengthen those already involved. The members of Parliament or the Parliamentary Committee on ICT are part of this group, and underfunding is one of those challenges that have been underscored. As to join this call has been the Minister for ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi. To him, ICT is here to stay, which everyone needs to embrace. And Chris Baryomunsi also seized the opportunity to detest irresponsible media reporting. This he did in response to a recent article by one local newspaper associating Parliament to corruption. The Information, Communications Technology and National Guidance Strategic Retreat runs up to the 27th of April 2024. And that is it from our local news this Friday morning. Well, Merab is just right here to take us through what is making headlines away from Uganda.
Over to the international scene. TikTok's China's parent firm says has no plans to sell the app. TikTok's China's parent company, ByteDance, says it has no intentions of selling the business after the US passed a law that will force it to sell the video app to be banned in America. ByteDance doesn't have any plans to sell TikTok. The company posted on its official account of TiaoTao, a social media platform it owns. TikTok did not immediately respond to a request for a comment from the BBC earlier this week. TikTok said it would challenge in court the unconstitutional law. The statement from ByteDance came after media reports that it was exploring options to sell TikTok without the algorithm that powers it. Foreign media reports of ByteDance selling TikToks are not true, the company said. ByteDance doesn't have any plans to sell TikTok. The company posted late Thursday on its official account on TiaoTao, a social media platform it owns. And over to the Israel war on Gaza. The UN says preserve evidence of Gaza mass graves. Stephanie Dujarric, spokesperson of the UN Secretary, Stephanie Dujarric, the spokesperson for the UN Secretary General, said it is important that all forensic evidence be well preserved from Gaza's mass graves, but that a mandate from a UN legislative group is required to allow the world body to take legal possession of such material amid calls for all international investigations. The Palestinian Civil Defense says it would cooperate with an independent investigation into 3 separate mass graves found in Gaza containing 392 bodies. The US says it has begun construction on a pier on the Gaza Strip coast that will facilitate maritime aid delivery after Joe Biden announced the plan last month. A Hamas official says the group is serious about releasing captives, but only with a ceasefire. A senior Israeli official says the military is moving ahead with its planned ground invasions of Rafah, ignoring a growing chorus of international warnings to call it off. And moving over to African news, Tanzanian floods and landslides kill more than 150, Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa says. At least 155 people have died in floods and landslides in Tanzania following heavy rains caused by El Nino, the Prime Minister has said. Kassim Majaliwa warned that the rains may continue into May and urged families to leave flood-prone areas. About 200,000 people and more than 51,000 households were already affected by the disaster, he added. Heavy rains have also swept through neighboring Kenya and Burundi, causing a humanitarian crisis in the region. Giving a report to Tanzania's parliament on the situation in his country since January, Mr. Majaliwa said that in addition to 155 people killed, 236 have been injured. The heavy El Nino rains, accompanied by strong winds, floods, and landslides in various parts of the country, have caused significant damage. These include loss of lives, destruction of crops, homes, citizens' property, and infrastructure such as roads, bridges, and railways, he added. Now, that has been some of the news that has been making headlines in and around the world.
All right, now away from the international scene, we now focus our eyes on the front pages of our papers within the East African region, with which we start from the local scene. Here, President Museveni meets former Botswana leader, pictorial of that meeting at State House in Entebbe at the front page of today's New Vision. Also, the countdown to the census, 13 days to go. Be prepared, May is here and so is the population census. Get ready and be counted. Now, the ministry moves to close institutions with glaring gaps as boarding schools get tougher rules. Read about the boarding schools rules in today's New Vision. Then Parliament members vote to retain 13 agencies and only merge 4. Matters to do with rationalization of government agencies. Details to proceed in today's New Vision. And in the Beat magazine, how jazz unites people. Read about it. Then President Museveni launches Nakivubo Stadium, a pictorial of President Museveni, Minister Ogwang, and her Miss Chigundu at the front page of the New Vision, giving you details of the same. Read about it, what happened, the images, and everything behind the launch of the stadium. Now, the Daily Monitor is putting it up for you here as government sets tough rules for boarding schools. Some of the tough rules will be targeting food, gender, fire extinguishers, and CCTV cameras. All of that is part of the new rules and regulations that the Minister of Education is issuing for boarding schools as schools break off. Now, we know Kagezi killers. CID boss tells President Museveni. You find more about it. Who are those killers that were identified? Then Health, Aga Khan University opens specialty center in Kampala, a pictorial of some of the facilities within the specialty center by Aga Khan University. Members of Parliament told to reject surrogacy bill. Read about it. Then Kampala passenger train to Hatterback to life next week. A huge one. Especially for those who come from Mukono and the neighboring state areas who use the same train. Now, looking deeper into the Scoop magazine, the soulful Michi Darling. Read about her in today's Scoop magazine. We cross the borders now. Kenya, succession row leaves rich Moi kin broke. Help grandson holds a Harambe to raise cash for treatment. You can read about that in the Daily Nation. Households in flood-prone areas face eviction, says President Ruto. Then senators push for review of laws on the removal of governors. Then also, no love, no marriage. A judge allows couple to divorce on grounds of lost feelings. Interesting report. Find more details about that in today's Daily Nation. Now, the Citizen newspaper is highlighting death, destruction as deluge swamps Tanzania and Kenya. Heavy rains and severe flooding are wreaking devastation across East Africa, having already claimed dozens of lives and displaced thousands in Tanzania and Kenya in the recent weeks. 60,000 so far recorded as dead in Kenya, 155 in Tanzania. That's a huge number in Kenya. Now, national support. TMA's $2 $1 million cash boost for horticulture. Read about it. It's a 2.1 million US dollar cash boost for horticulture. As Samia says, we've achieved a lot in 60 years of union as Tanzania, as CSOs push for action against online gender abuse. You can as well see details of what the Citizen is highlighting on the new vision, rather on the front page of the Citizen newspaper this morning. So that is something that you can look at and read details of. All right, now that is it from our press review this morning, the international news and the local scene. When we do return after the break, we have a huge conversation, huge discussion in for our Friday newsreel. But for now, our inspirational song, Live Your Life, T.I. and Rihanna. May it have an inspiration to you this particular Friday morning.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
I'm breaking out of this cage. I'm standing up.
It is a right move because that is a very
Pick of the day on UBC.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
A weekly face-to-face conversation focusing on accountability, inspiration, information, and sensitization of the public.
from the various sources, such as inspirational profiles.
Having disability is not inability.
Every Friday 9 p.m., it's one-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
Don't you see anywhere that you would give a credit in the fight against COVID?
My role as the owner of the country is not to, be preoccupied by giving credit to my servant.
We have said that if we are to talk to General Museveni, there must be certain conditions in place.
Is it true that you paid 5 million shillings to MPs that voted for?
Was brought to you by
just a corporate loan of 200k to stock my shop. The signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hassle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? We're sorting it. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our myth or from just the Nile.
We are the same people and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people.
We are one.
Pamoja, we are one.
Use that word, pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 2024 at Ham Cinemax and the National Theatre. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
All right, I hope you're doing fantastic this Friday because we are having a conversation this morning that entails you to be part of it entirely. A conversation that is heading to the religious denominations in Uganda today, and also a conversation that pretty much speaks to those within the faith or those who are highly spiritual in regards to understanding the spiritual realm, the spiritual language, religious language, and of course, various beliefs within the country. Just to give you a simple preamble, is that this topic we are looking at the fact that there is a move to regulate religious faith organizations in Uganda. A regulation that seeks to have clear guidelines of how religious denominations or religious groups and beliefs in Uganda operate and how they move. Just to take you through the situation here as well, is that the Constitution prohibits religious discrimination and stipulates there shall be no state religion. And it provides for freedom of belief, the right to practice and promote any religion, and the right to belong to and participate in the practices of any religious organizations in a manner consistent with the Constitution. Now, over the years, just to take you in 2019, there was a bill that was going to be presented before Parliament in regards to the regulation of religious bodies in Uganda, or let's say religious organizations. That was never tabled, and we expected discussions of the same, and it was pushed. Fast forward now, some of the religious critics in the country, if that is the word to use, feel it is right for the government to start registering and regulating all churches. Now, in the regulations, some believe it is going to be the right way to control the ever-growing extortion, religious manipulation, and the many other offenses happening in the modern church today. It is a conversation that is wide, conversation that cannot go to bed anytime sooner. On our Friday edition this morning on Good Morning Uganda, this is a conversation we want you, our viewer, to be part of. Comment on the move to regulate religious faith organizations in Uganda. Do you think it is the right move? Because some of the religious leaders feel it may be a law to ban some of the religious denominations' participation. To be more precise, some of the Pentecostal leaders or born-again churches believe this seems to be a move that is moving towards trying to put an end to the spread of the gospel. Is it right? Or it is something that is rather a little political in one way or the other? We don't know. That is something we can't be sure of. But you can share your view and opinion on this matter this morning. We shall go through the same. Merab Cherotich is with me this morning, and we are going to dive deeper into this. Merab, I don't know which religious denomination you belong to, but in the modern church today, there are lots of things we are seeing. Yes. And I would ask you, from a personal experience, when you look at the ongoing situation in the modern church, in Uganda's perspective, regulating, is it the right move to do?
I believe it is the right move to do, because when it comes to these Pentecostal churches, there's, I think, a lot that has been going on and has been pushed to the back burner. So when government comes in and put policies on these churches, they're doing right by the people.
Okay.
And when you look at other religions, they're being regulated. They're open to regulation from the government. So what exempts the Pentecostals from being regulated? I welcome the move because it will help curb down a lot of the things that we have actually been seeing and witnessing. But the most important thing is, I think what these people have looked at is they claim the government wants to oust them out. Taking them back to the during Amin's time, because they had challenges, because Amin had scrapped.
This 1970s.
Yes, had scrapped them off, and he remained with a few religions that he considered were true and pure, and put them on the back and ignored them. So, of course, eventually these churches came up, but the history dates back to the 1982. Yes. From missionaries, it came along
18.
that, yes, 18, yes. So it has a very, very long history. And when it comes now to our people, and those people that go to these churches, they have a huge following. They've become very big churches. They have very many people in their congregations. But when
they have huge influence.
Huge influence. Because certain people would say, even they influence people's homes, people's marriages.
True.
They have dug deep into people's lives. So when we see this going on, so the government decides, you know, it is about time for us to regulate the situation because it is getting out of hand. So just the fact that it has to include somebody who has gone to theological school, which is very, very important, because with other religions, Muslims, the Anglicans, the Catholic, these people go through the process.
And you know, when Mera mentioned something to do with during the time of the Idi Amin era, in 1977, there was a former President Idi Amin banned 26 Christian organizations and the Baha'i faith from operating in Uganda. The faith affected included the Seventh-day Adventist Church and the Uganda Baptist Mission during that era. President Idi Amin, who was Muslim, then granted freedom of worship to only Islam, the Anglican, Roman Catholic, and Orthodox churches. Now, some of the Pentecostal churches or leaders of the Pentecostal churches in Uganda, what you can dub as born-again believers in Uganda, say that every policy, because this is a policy of regulation that we have looked at, they were quoted saying that every policy that they've looked at, whether in the Middle Ages in Western Europe, Christendom suffered because of regulations. They started regulating the church, what the church can do, and they lost the revival. Now, we know where Europe is today. According to some of these leaders, is that they lost the revival. They have an argument here that to them, regulating the church is trying to bring in political affairs and bureaucracy into the church, which is going to change the entire the entire agenda or the entire vision of the church, which is spreading the gospel. Are they right in that regard?
No.
Or they're being defensive?
They're being defensive. They're being totally going on the defense, because when you look at the government itself coming up to regulate these churches, it's just an intention of curbing down what they have been doing behind closed doors. And also, it has not affected the other religions that we have. What has stopped the Anglican Church from spreading the gospel? The Anglican Church and the Catholic Church and the Muslims themselves do not involve themselves in politics. They preach to their congregations about what is happening, but it doesn't directly involve themselves or make the situation political. It doesn't do that at all. So this is just a defense mechanism for them to try to push out this policy and not accept it or welcome it, because they know a lot will come in if this policy actually pushes through.
Well, on top of having a license to operate a church, when you look at the policy that seeks to regulate the religious faith organizations in Uganda, there's also an element of the fact that every pastor who preaches fast has to take their sermon to an office in government to check it. And this is some of the proposed bit of it, that a sermon where we've seen different preachers having, to preach, different messages to their, to their congregation and the like. My worry here is, if we continue having all this, is this something that is likely to continuously grow, whereby if a church, because we've seen so many churches having lunch hour sessions, we have Saturday, overnights, Friday overnights, and every different preacher has a different message.
Yes.
It may be a different message from the Bible, but obviously it is conveyed differently. And won't this be a little harsh when it comes to, taking your sermon to a government office to approve?
Okay, maybe the extremes might be there, but it is not in a bad faith, because they want to make sure that whatever you are preaching out to these vulnerable people who actually come to you when they are desperate, when they are in need, when they have you to turn to, they want to make sure that you are actually, you have their best interests, rather than deterring or going against what the Bible actually preaches about, what it talks about. It's just a way of making sure that the congregation is not misled and people are not put in situations. Because when you look at going for overnights, people choose to leave their homes, to leave their marriages, to go and spend the entire night.
It's more like waking up in the morning and you decide to say, let me go and party all night.
No, it's
it's a personal decision, really.
Yes, it is a personal decision. But sometimes when it comes to being home for certain people, it has actually caused a lot of problems in people's marriages, domestic violence, because women leave their homes with their children to go to church.
That is the manipulation being highlighted.
Exactly, here. To go to church and, spend the entire night at church.
And part of the draft policy lists some of the current shortfalls among the religious faith organizations in Uganda as manipulation. There is exploitation of followers. There is loss of property and lives. We've seen quite a number of cases where, believers have lost their lives simply because the church head has actually told them this is the only way we are going to meet God, or you're going to meet your Creator. Then there is also disunity among the faithful, increased rates of domestic violence, like Merabas put it, family breakdowns, there is societal instability, promotion of immorality, and then there's an element of noise pollution.
Of course, definitely. These people who are going to do the overnight prayers are going to, throughout the night, be praising, speaking in tongues, banging walls, and the neighborhood is going to suffer. Those people that live around the place are going to face the consequences. But we also realize one of the reasons why it actually should be, policies should be put in place for these churches. When you look at the Balokole faith, as they call themselves, anybody can open a church. you know. In your area, you can find makeshift churches. So anybody can come up and decide to make a church, whether they qualify, whether they don't qualify. A person can just wake up and be like, you know what, today I am, even if I have like 2 or 3 followers, they end up growing in huge number.
And also, you know, if you're to look deep into this as a complex kind of topic, you look at the fact that there is a balance between regulation and freedom. One would say there's, you know, there has been some issues to do with the freedom that many of these religious faith organizations are having today. The freedom to operate, start up from anywhere. And then when it comes to, you know, regulating them, it becomes difficult. Yes. You know, you cannot easily regulate something you didn't see coming up. It is someone starting up a church in maybe about 5 years back in a simple community, preaching the word of God on, you know, on grounds of, you know, spiritual intervention in his life, in his or her life. And then, moving forward, a church is constructed because the followers and the congregation is actually growing. Let me throw it into now a huge sea of thoughts. When you look at, let's say, the Catholic faith, you look at the Pentecostal, you look at the Anglican side of it. For the Catholics and the Anglican, the regulations and everything is something that is birthed out of the country. Yes. So letters are sent in here and there. And of course, even the Pentecostal churches today are having various groups. And they also have an association that guides on how churches should operate. However, there is another huge concern, not only with the Pentecostal churches. Today, many of the religious faith organizations in Uganda, not to be specific, have turned it into an extortion sort. Or it's a business of making money. Is this one of the reasons as to why we need such a regulation? And will the regulation put an end to this? Because it does seem like people giving their money willingly, as much as we speak of exploitation. Yeah, people do give in their offertory, people do give in their money, people give in their tithes, but in a way you want to know what that money is doing. That money is there to help the church. Especially when you look at the Anglicans, the Catholics, you see the developments those people actually have through the monies they give the church. But what happens with these other people, the monies that go through the church is going to be diverted into their own personal gains. You find some of them drive very posh cars, some of them have very huge homes. So you look at their congregations, the congregations are suffering. Even their churches are not in like good structures. So where does the money go? So people have been manipulated and played with, and it is important that this policy comes through so that at least those who have been brainwashed, because in a way it's a form of brainwash, can get back to reality and realize that they are being used, and this policy should pull through. Merab, let's talk about accountability and transparency. You see, one would say with this policy there's going to be an element of accountability and how, you know, many of the religious denominations do their things today. Many of them, because they believe they are not supposed to be regulated by a government body and the like, because they have rules and regulations that they follow that are rather from the spiritual realm of things. When it comes to accountability, have they been so accountable and transparent with the way they are doing some of their things? Because many, you do realize many of the church leaders today do not want any kind of, you know, political intervention or social criticism against how they do their things.
Of course, when you close out, when you don't want other people involved, that means there is something that is going wrong. When you look at other churches, especially those that are regulated, during services you go for, they will account for what their monies are doing. They will even account for the collections, the offertory, and they say, during last Sunday, we were able to collect such and such an amount of money, and it is going towards this, you know. So there is accountability from that side. But if we go into these churches, you find that it is not clear on how this money or the funds are being used. The funds may be collected with an agenda that money is being raised maybe to construct it, or is being raised for a project here and there. But do these projects pull through? That question still lingers, and you realize that there's no proper accountability. And also looking at the fact that during some of these collections in these churches, they preach a false narrative of saying the Lord doesn't accept, you know, when we go to church, we go as we are. The Lord says, come as you are. He accepts you the way you are. Even whatever you have to give.
Church is not discriminative.
Exactly.
However, these days it is.
It is. Because they would say, you know, that the Lord doesn't accept coins, you know, which is actually wrong.
A few of those churches.
A few, of course, of those churches will say, the Lord doesn't accept coins. He accepts there's a certain amount of money the Lord will welcome. So in a way, this is wrong. It's a form of exploitation to the vulnerable.
Okay, and also please do note, our dear viewer, you can be part of this conversation or this discussion this morning by sharing your thoughts or commenting on the move to regulate religious faith organizations in Uganda. You can as well share part of your experiences with different religious denominations that you've been attached to over the years. Has there been any sort of exploitation? Has there been any sort of manipulation that you think or feel the government should step in and put an end to? And well, we shall definitely be getting through your feedback here on our WhatsApp number and of course on the X app with the hashtag UBCGMU. Remember, you can use the hashtag UBCGMU on the X app to respond to some of what we are having. And for those who can't access WhatsApp, you can as well use the same number on SMS 0709602592, and then we can get your feedback later on with our conversation, because I want to believe for those who are Christians, you have seen or identified some of these issues here and there. But also, please do note that the Constitution prohibits religious discrimination and stipulates that there shall be no state religion. It provides for freedom of belief. That means there is an element where you can choose any religious denomination that you want or you feel is good for your soul or is good for your spirit. You can choose to be under the Pentecostal churches. You can choose to be a Catholic. You can choose to be under the Church of Uganda or the Anglican Church. You can choose to be under the Seventh-day Adventists. You can choose to be under the Orthodox. You can as well choose to be a Muslim. So the Constitution gives you that freedom as a Ugandan. So there is the right to practice and promote any religion and the right to belong to and participate in the practices of any religious organizations in a manner consistent with the Constitution. That is why we even currently have people who are not into any religious practices but are still in the cultural beliefs of the African society. And those are also there in our Uganda today. Well, Merab, looking at regulating, just in case the regulation is there, over the years we've seen the exploitation. We've seen videos on social media where many are criticizing some of the church leaders on how they ask for offertory. On, you know, obviously you get to realize that in most of the churches, or all the churches, there is that element of offertory that has to be paid. And of course, for those who believe in the Christian denomination, and for those who have read their Bible, you get to realize that you always have to pay tenth or tithe. So you have to, you know, to pay your tithe to your church, and that is something that every believer is aware of, especially those who are working and the like. So to be part of this, you have to make sure that you pay your tithe, or echimwe chekum in the Ugandan dialect. But when you look at the ongoing sort of things, because some of the people that are supportive of this move are saying the level of exploitation today, speaking of extortion, we've seen cases of sexual harassment. Just early this year when the BBC released, you know, a famous documentary of the late pastor of the synagogue church in Nigeria. When you look at some of those cases, you wouldn't wish to see them in Uganda today. And regulation does seem like the best way to move. But the question is, why are some of the church leaders worried about this regulation?
Well, like I said, they probably have something for them to cover, for them not to want to be involved in, or they are looking at it as a political thing, because maybe it gets back to the history they have had with the previous governments, where their churches were cut off. So maybe that might be one of the reasons.
Moni, some of them are presidential advisors. That's not something they should be worried about.
Yes. So it is something, yes, they shouldn't be worried about, but there's more to it, I think. And they should, if there's nothing wrong with this policy, them having this policy, they should be open to it, just like how other faiths are open to the policies that regulate them. And also, you spoke about like the exploitation. You would find the way these churches, or how their faith is set up, they believe in speaking in tongues and have performing miracles.
So, but the look of things you're targeting certain religious denominations.
I know.
but anyway, let me try to also chip in with this.
Yes.
Do you think there should be a need for mindset change?
Of course.
Especially for the believers today.
Yes.
To check their conscience while they are going to the churches or following different religious denominations.
Yes, because in some churches, Sonko, there is a form of brainwash.
Okay.
They have really, really brainwashed certain individuals and manipulated them. If somebody can go ahead and sell their piece of land that has been in their family for generations and generations, just because you had to give in something to the church, or that church required you to meet a certain level of expectation, which is a manipulation still at its highest. So the most important thing is the whole brainwash situation that is happening with those people in that congregation should be checked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I do have some views and comments coming through on WhatsApp, and of course, to our dear viewer, you can comment on the move to regulate religious faith organizations in Uganda. I'll quickly run into some of these. Hello, sir. Good morning. Thanks for the good message. This is Tumsime Aldo from Kakumiro. Thank you very much, Tumsime. Please share your view and comment on the topic we have this morning, but thank you for watching. This one says, good morning, family. I think regulation is needed because our fellows in the Pentecostal churches and born-again faith at large have no top leadership like other churches. They have always messed up things. Pastors do whatever they want because nobody can hold them accountable. He says the huge sums of money collected is not accounted for like it is in other churches, and here followers are much exploited. By the way, there is something that gives Caesar what belongs to Caesar and to the Lord what belongs to the Lord. And this one says, when and why, and this has brought in more false prophets who even do disgusting things to followers in the name of God. They have internal conflicts within themselves, whereby one pastor is hostile to another due to kind of competition for followers, miracles, and money as well. So all the kind of havoc is due to lack of regulation. In defense, he says that they say that they are led by only Christ and the Holy Spirit, but sincerely speaking, majority do is total contradiction to what the scriptures reveal. And otherwise, other churches won't be much affected by that move because they are kind of organized. Cricket Derek Gagamel from Makindi Luwafu. Thank you very much, Derek. And for some of the viewers out there who are trying to make phone calls, please just share your views on WhatsApp or SMS. We are not picking any phone call whatsoever, but we do appreciate the efforts that you're taking in. Then this one, Okello Fred from Tororo says, if you realize you're being exploited, quit the church. There's a saying that it is very difficult to convince a believer, a woman in love, and there is some other person who is very difficult to convince. We've been talking about mindset change. Yeah. Today, the world, there is a huge basket of information. And information is very important. If you're well informed about how the world moves, the chances are you cannot easily be manipulated or you're well conscious about any sort of move you're actually going to take or make. When we go back to mindset, should the government get involved in educating the masses on the element of religion? Or is it something that is more complex than we may look at it? Because we may think the government can intervene, but government will just bring in political views and the like, which will distort the spiritual agenda.
That would actually be a stretch. It is not the government's role or duty.
But they have to play a role here and there.
The role they are playing now is the policy.
Okay.
Putting up that policy. The rest is for those people or individuals that have people that go to these churches. How best can you help them so that they are not put in those positions where they are totally off and lack a sense of direction in their faith. But regardless, these churches still have played a good roles in, not all of them, just a few have made it look like there's something wrong with their churches. The holes that are in their system and how they do their things become questionable. So not all of them are doing a bad job. They're actually doing okay, but the policy needs to be reinforced for the reasons that have been given, especially with the accountability. And also, those that preach to the masses should be able to have a wide range of knowledge
of what they're doing.
Of what they're
I think
doing.
It goes back to the theology,
Yes.
having some theological studies in there. I've seen some of the religious leaders going in for that because some of the other side of the religious, you've seen Catholics going to seminaries, and then we've seen some of the church leaders in the Pentecostal going in for theology, courses and degrees away from Uganda and the like, because they want to get more in context with what they are preaching. I have a comment here. This one says, "Good morning, Mr. Sonko. The believers should learn to read the Bible and not just follow the religions, because the Bible is to rebuke some immoral act. Correct one another." This is Olungu Morris Ginger. They should stop following churches from one to another. Well, it is difficult. And Derek Gagamel here is correcting me that the three people who are difficult to control are a woman in love, a man with money, and a person following a prophet. Yes, the third person is a man with money. Very difficult to control or to give advice.
Yes.
I think the right word is to give advice.
Yes.
Because they already know whatever they are thinking about is right. So it is very difficult, really. But as we're summing up, moving forward, what should we do to put an end to the level of exploitation in churches today, to put an end to, the level of manipulation, to put an end to lack of accountability from the church leaders in various religious faith organizations in Uganda? Just moving forward, what really needs to be done besides the policy?
Well, when you see somebody go astray, out of goodwill, you should be able to actually tell them that you do not agree with this. If you may not even be a member of that church or going to that church, you should be able to involve yourself. When too much of it becomes enough, you come up and let them know, especially like with your loved ones. You can let them know, it's like, no, I actually don't agree with. Be open to air out your views, so that people can be able to know, or they might be blind and they do not see. So this will help them come to a realization that, oh yeah, what these people are actually talking about may be right. Because there are those who approach you and even will say, the Lord has sent me, the Lord has told me. So you can get back to it and say, my Lord also sent me, my Lord also told me, in a way of, without you causing any conflict or having any differences. But as members also, we should get involved. We shouldn't stand for that type of manipulation, that type of brainwash, and these people should be held accountable in situations if involving, especially if land is sold homes are broken, members of the community should get involved in this matter.
Well, and I'll leave this particular conversation this morning with a comment here. This one says, good morning, UBC. The presenters of the regulation of religious faith in Uganda says, thanks. However, we seem to be biased as a country to the Pentecostals, but regulations are needed to trim a number of things across the board when it comes to accountability and moral conduct, but should not be restricted on the sermons to be preached. Mwalimu Mayende Fred, who is in Busia. Thank you very much, Mwalimu. Lastly, this one says, good morning, this is Mark from Busia. Today some pastors and church leaders have made church as their source of income and they don't give accountability. Well, thank you very much for being part of this conversation this morning. A conversation that is still under huge debate because some of the leaders of the various religious faith organizations in Uganda feel this policy should be implemented after the 2026 elections. Is that a move that should be considered or not? Well, the movers of the same motion feel it is right for these churches and the religious faith organizations to be further regulated, given licenses, and of course, give room for accountability so that we do not hear cases of extortion and cases of exploitation here and there. As the church continues to grow, the modern church is facing quite a number of challenges, and many of those include the false prophets and of course many other issues within the running and the politics of the church. But for all of you that have been part of the conversation, it does continue online, and of course we can have an interaction of some particular sort. And well, you also get to realize that as much as we are preaching for good morals within church and in society, and then also looking at how we continue to push for the growth of morals, integrity within the church, accountability is something that many of the church leaders need to have. Merab, just shortly before we even break, there is a comment of a viewer here who said that we should not sort of be biased to the Pentecostal churches, that we should look broadly at the fact that this is something that is going to call for accountability for all religious faith organizations. Well, please do note that this policy is not only attached to the Pentecostal churches. However much, when you look at the examples being given, I should as well note many of those are coming in from the Pentecostal churches or born-again churches because of the rounds on social media, and many of the leaders from the Pentecostal churches feel streamline how the things are done from the spiritual realm and everything. No one will really be concerned about it, really. Yeah. I want to believe. Yes.
But at the same time, people should also be aware that when these policies are being set up and are being made, they will involve these church leaders. That it is not going to, the onus is not only going to be on government to bring about the policies and just lay them down. There's a room for discussion for them so that they meet halfway and discuss how best they can go about and make compromises or improvements in certain areas while setting this policy. And it's not definitely to attack or put, like they have said, a bias on them, only that the examples revolve around them a lot because of what has been moving around on social media and what has been seen happening in these churches. Yes.
Is this the right time we have conversations of turning back to our cultural norms and beliefs of the African society?
Well, you can still have those norms and beliefs, although there are people who have maintained those practices, but having a little more faith and is not a bad thing. But sticking to our norms and traditions is also important because it's a compass that gives you and guides you on how about to move with your life, although the religion is there to also give you a push on how your life can have a proper sense of direction.
Well, and also speaking of having a proper sense of direction, as a believer, it is rightfully so that you always move with self-conscious. Today, a couple of times we've seen, I want to remember the names, is it Chiwetere? Is it
Chiwetere? Yes.
The case where many believers died in a
burnt.
situation, were burnt. And, you know, it is always right for us to have some self-conscious. Because with the world we are moving in, we have access to social media. We are seeing how certain things operate. We read the Bible, I think, and you can easily tell, you know, your conscience can easily tell you that this is the right or wrong. Of course, you can't be judgmental if you don't understand many things of the Spirit. And I want to believe many of our church leaders are more knowledgeable about certain things that some of us who follow or go to churches will have to always listen to them in the long run. But there is a message that you will listen to and you feel like, no, this is really not right. And I think that is time where we have to step in regards to the mindset change as a country and try to put our fellow Ugandans and citizens part and parcel of how you need to be very aware that manipulation, extortion, and certain things do not align with what the scriptures write. Mera, besides the mindset, I am yet to also look at the fact that if setting up a church, today we had a conversation just before we went on air, that when you set up a church, let's say when you look at the Anglican, you look at the Catholic churches, most of them set up churches based on criteria.
Yes.
And at times there are other denominations where a church is established right away, which of course from the realm of the Spirit, it is spreading the gospel and making sure that people get close to God. Is that also something that the regulation needs to also seek out for this time around?
Yeah, of course. If we look at it coming from a spiritual realms, we have spirits that guide us. There might be good spirits, there might be bad spirits, but what kind of spirit has guided you to create a church, and what is the main agenda for, and what are you going to follow? It comes down to even the scriptures and what you're going to preach to the people. Some people even may divert from what the Bible says, because we've had incidences where some preachers go against what the Bible says to preach what best suits them. So it's the regulation bit and policing bit is actually trickles also down to having had knowledge about going through the theological school and talking about these issues when you are well versed and not far-fetched or not knowing just because you are being guided by the spiritual realm. The Spirit has sent me. So we need to be more cautious of that as well, because we do not want our people falling prey into these kinds of situations, and before we know it, there's decay in members of that church. Yes.
And well, of course, some of the other people giving feedback on the same say they've witnessed first-hand consequences of regulating faith-based organizations on a nation. And some are warning Uganda against walking the same path. When you look at some of the other, religious watchers feel that at times regulation may, try to, create some conflict of interest in one way or the other.
When we look at our neighbors in Kenya, you know what happened. A certain church had its congregation starved to death. So it is important that however much they may be against it, they should be for it as well, to avoid certain instances like this. Even he spoke about the Chiwetere situation. They locked them in a church, and the narrative is always, oh, the Lord is coming, the Lord is about to come, so we have to come together and do this. You play mind tricks on people and manipulate them. So, yes, the government should indeed put these policies on these churches, regulate them to avoid such situations.
Well, when you look at some incidents in Kenya, Kenya fell prey to this scheme, leading to the accusation and subsequent attempts at regulation of the faith organizations. Shockingly, some of the church leaders, when such a policy was introduced in Kenya, out of ignorance, shame and fear, advocated for government intervention. Then the president of Kenya, William Ruto, responded by establishing a task force which swiftly implemented stringent regulations. These included increased taxation, mandatory scholarly qualifications for clergy, up-to-date registrations. Then there was also church ownership of land and buildings. This is from the Kenyan side. And then declaration of wealth, among others. A declaration of wealth by those who are within the churches and the church leaders. Now, these restrictions encroach upon the scarcity of religious faith, resulting in some places of worship being torn down. Well, I think the declaration of wealth is also important because we've seen some church leaders becoming wealthy and wealthy at the expense of the congregation. But well, for those that have shared their views and opinions on what we've been discussing this morning, many thanks for being part of it as we are looking at regulating religious faith organizations in Uganda. This is a conversation that continuously grows and is continuously growing here and there. But well, for those of you that have been part of the conversation, and this conversation does continue online, I would wish to leave you with a scripture here from 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 2, that says, "Preach the word, be instant in season, out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine." That is 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 2. Maybe it can be a verse for you this particular morning. Well, we return with more because we have a guest artist in here. We also have more conversation coming along. This is the Good Morning Uganda Friday edition. Good morning.
Pick of the day on UBC.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
A weekly face-to-face conversation focusing on accountability, inspiration, information, and sensitization of the public from the various sources, such as inspirational profiles.
Having a disability is not inability.
Every Friday 9 p.m., it's one-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
Don't you see anywhere that you would give a credit in the fight against COVID?
My role as the owner of the country is not to, be preoccupied by giving credit to my servant.
We have said that if we are to talk to General Museveni, there must be certain conditions in place.
Is it true that you paid 5 million shillings to MPs that voted for?
Was brought to you by
Just take a polite loan of 200k to stock my shop. The signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hustle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? We're sorting it. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our myth or from just the Nile.
We are the same people and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people.
We are one.
Pamoja, we are one.
Use that word, pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 2024 at Ham Cinemax and the National Theatre. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
Juko. Yo. Wachiko. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Okay.
Welcome back. This is Good Morning Uganda, and today happens to be a Friday. And what happens on Friday? We have the hype, we have the excitement, and today with me here in the studio we have a special guest who happens to be an artist. He will be telling us more about himself, what has inspired him, who he is, and definitely listen to his music as well. You're most welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Meryl.
Yes, good to have you here. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are.
Yes, my name is Kajambia. I am a gospel minister. So I do gospel music and I do urban gospel, that's dancehall and the likes. And I'm happy to be here.
Okay, glad to have you here as well. So when we look at your gospel journey, tell us what inspired you to stretch out into gospel music.
Yeah, personally, inspiration for me has been a call of God on my life. From a very young age, I realized that I could sing. I had that gift. I loved music, and then by the time I joined Senior 1, that's when I realized that I could actually write music. So I started writing music in there, and then my life through high school, we were the guys that used to perform on talent shows and stuff like that. Then by the time I joined university, that's when I started now going into studios. I did some music in there, but I think I hadn't fully discovered myself and maybe who God had called me to be. But until 2017, because I've always been a man in church serving God, and then God told me he wanted me to do music for him. So 2017 August, that's when the journey of Kajambia music starts, and here we are.
So looking at your journey, because you say your journey started in 2017, how has your journey been like? What are the challenges you faced? What are the milestones you have hit? Generally, how has the journey been like for you?
I want to thank God. I know when you talk to many people, they will tell you, oh, it has been hard, oh, people have chased my music here and there. But I think for me, it has been, especially because I had my time of waiting on God. I think I came in the right season, and I want to thank God that for me it has been an easy journey. I really haven't faced many challenges, and up to date I do not struggle to record music, to do music videos. And it has been a smooth journey, and I like the reception that people have given to my music. I love testimonies of people whose lives have been transformed by my music. So for me, those are the biggest milestones. Actually, I have people that have confessed to me that they got born again through my music. Mm-hmm.
That is truly, truly inspiring. But for the people who are watching out there, even for the fans that you have out there, they would want to know, what is the creative process like for you? What drives you to create the music that you create?
That's a very interesting question, and actually I've had people ask me, how do you write a song? And I always tell them, I never wake up any single day to write a song. But for me, the inspiration comes from many places. Sometimes I'm just, I love solitude, I love studying the word. Sometimes I'm just alone reading the Bible. And as I'm meditating on a scripture, I start to get inspiration and revelation of lyrics. Then before you know it, I start writing. Then there are also those other days where you just feel like, you know what, let me just go to studio. You go to studio, sit down with a producer, and before you know it, you have a song. So I do not have like the ABCDs of creating a song or writing music, but in a nutshell, that's my creative process.
So, Kajambia, are there any musicians or any artists that inspire you, or those that you look at and have inspired you to make the music that you create, especially in the gospel scene?
In the gospel scene, yeah. So I remember at an early stage, like I think by the time we were in senior one, in Uganda, I was inspired by a gentleman called Sekou Martin. He used to do gospel dancehall, and by then we never used to know that actually. We thought gospel music was only these hymns that we sing in church. So knowing that there's someone who was doing the genre that I loved and they're doing gospel music, he inspired me a lot. Then there is another gentleman, he's also a gospel musician from Jamaica. He's called Papa San. I used to listen to him a lot. So those are the people that really shaped my music journey, and I can say they inspired me to do what I do.
Okay. So, what would be the best advice you would give to a certain young person who is out there and wants to venture into the music industry of gospel and doesn't know how and where exactly to start? Talk to our viewers out there and tell them what should be an inspiration for them.
Okay, number one, what I always tell people, I ask people, why do you want to do gospel music? I think that's the most important thing. There should be a call of God on your life if you want to do gospel music. If you want the fame, because you see someone on TV and you think they're famous, if you want it for the fame, it might be very frustrating for you. So I think the first thing is to discover your calling. If God is calling you into it, wait on Him, and trust me, the process will be smooth.
Okay. So here with me, Kajambia, he is ready to hit us with his performance, with his music. So get inspired. So Kajambia, take it away.
Thank you.
My identity is Christ. My identity is Christ. My identity is Christ, and I'm a child of the Most High. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. And I'm a child. Listen to this. Boy. Bamuzayan ninayo nemanso nabanonyeza kunsite bansanga mana mission. This is not my destination. I'm a soldier on a battlefield, straight to the front line. Born of the word and peculiar nazi wa musai sichala babucha indi chitala nsala sala banumba tantia kwentia simanyi chimupika hakati nachusa identity ndi muwanguzi nanzi ya wangulila munze. My blood is Christ, my DNA is Christ. I say Christ is all over me, I'm getting chiwududu. Yeah. My identity is Christ. My identity is Christ. My identity is Christ, and I'm a child of the Most High. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Anama. Listen. Boba wa manyaluli katina loko kanali muya ye muchibi katina chusi wa fawali tebamanyi Yesu be yafidida yatuja yatubongako tulina mikwano je. No money come by way enough you can defy when nobody can touch we No weapon against we can stand in the way, no spirit can touch we Cause my identity is Christ and my sanity is love. My purity is worth, cause my price was blood. My identity is Christ. My identity is Christ. My identity is Christ, and I'm a child of the Most High. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. And I'm a child of the Most High God. Cause my identity is Christ, and my sanity is love. My purity is worth, cause my price was blood. Cause my identity is Christ, and my sanity is love. My purity is worth, cause my price was blood. Osobola okunyenyamu mpola mpola. So. Everybody. So, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Yeah, man. So, this is for the virtuous women out there. If you're a virtuous woman, this is your song. Listen. Hey, like a movie scene, played in black and white. Ooh, like a treasure, hidden on the mountain top. Hey, like a well in the ocean, she's standing up. And like an oasis in the desert, she's a spring of life. She's her prices. Hey, she's anointed, she's like water. She never runs out and she's like a fire. The lights up is what she's visionary. She's one in a million. Oh, she's beautiful. She's got it all. She's just like a lily in the wine. Oh, she is faithful to her own. She makes him feel like a king on the throne because she's a virtuous woman. Ono tayomba yomba, talina lugambo. Ono tanyoma mwami, yona tayuga yuga. Kabibe bigambo tebimukyusa mimi. Yatuzibwa famili javamu etya Katonda. Ago wamanyi unamanyi nti omwami ye mutwe. Ngate ekyo tekimufuula munafuuta likumwenkanonkano. Ono mubiri gwa mubiri gwe. Abaana be abayigiriza empisa tabakuza mwawa. We sing. Oh, she's beautiful. She's got it all. She's just like she's a lily in the wine. She's faithful to her own. She makes him feel like a king on the throne because she's a virtuous woman. Oh na na na.
As it's written, whoso findeth a wife, findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favor of the Lord. Yes, sir.
She the woman with the piercing from above. She not afraid, no matter what kind of wave come. Life giver she is, and life saver she is. She the best and the greatest thing, man. Ono mukumi simu jajami, obunafu bw'omwami tabulalasa. Mukozi teyesunga zakameza, ebilemi ebakwasiza awamu ne babifixinga. She's beautiful. She's got it all. She's a lily in the wine. Oh Lord, she is faithful to her own. She makes him feel like a king on the throne. And because she's a virtuous woman. Sweet, sweet, sweet reggae vibe. Foot to the soul makes you one young more like sweet, yeah. Like ooh. So, are you ready to dance? This must be so. Bring this producer. We go. So we are like a bullet in a chamber. Tukuwata gete tusemba. Tuli muchisate tulwana ya lwana na wangula. Now we chill every day. But this what is cut in a sander. How we preach it and take it all over. How we mash up the enemy's plan. This kind of fun we on top got effect to the core. Bullet. We are sick. Spirit and soul. Target. We not sit down. Oh na 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 na. Bullet.
Na 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 na.
Bullet.
Na 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 na.
Bullet. Bullet. Listen. Sitting at the class, get up, pen and paper, back to the word. We must get wise and better. We now look on the past, focused on the latter. We are born of the water, we are no creature. Remember when the prophet Joel prophesied, the spirit of the Lord powering upon the flesh, and men saying visions and men dreaming dreams. And this one is a chosen generation. I won't understand this. Ukusesa mutu wa mukanisa to refilling.
eno togiyita zikisasi kimuntu kubambizi tuimbe abalokole we are sing separate things. We are always on target, we can't retreat. We not sit down, we pray till we touch all out. Oh na 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 na, oh na 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 na, oh na 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 na. Say we are like a bullet in a chamber. Tukubatagete tusemba. Tuli muchisate tulwana ya lwana na wangula na wichi. This one is cut in a sander. We preach it and take it all over. How we mash up the enemy's plan. This kind of fun we on top. Listen, tewali kusula nanga echigambo tuliachilie we eating this scroll. Petuchilianga Ezekieli yokuvayo bagamba chimumchikola. When we step in at the place, emizimu jidukao abaluwande n'abalema bastukao sitani tomukuwanga gao memeo tukwatambola tojani we are deep, rich, blessed and we preach with the light to the world light. How we careless. Hey, give me the drum step and beat, make we play tango. We are sing. We are always on target, we can't retreat. Oh na 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 na, oh na 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 na, oh na 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 na. Bullet, bullet, bullet. Bullet, double edged sword. Separating spirit and soul. Target we can't reach it in a sit down. Oh na 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 na. Oh na 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 na. Oh na 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 na. Bullet, bullet, bullet. Eno tuni yekuja wo today. No stuka no gulianga to take it. Bots. So, all things are working for your good. I don't care what you are going through. Landi lodi yakede kubanja. School fees abana baba banja. Nabo musolo nabo bakuenja. Chokabo banja nabo bakubasirikinga baninja. Otunula jova chika, otunula jola gacho chikambate. Na ye buli losome chigambo cha mukama. Agamba talekelela bamwesiga one time. You know what you solo yimba na tebula mbale chikuto bude chite. All things are working for my good, yeah. All things are working for my good, yeah. Ze chingolela, it is working, yeah. Chingolela. It is working, yeah, it is working. Hi, oh, yeah. Atandisa ofuna makungula obadde ng'oyita mu mbirigo sembela tuboje kunguliko celebrate. Today is the day, my God will make you great. Don't you hesitate. Anytime, all things are working for my good, yeah. All things are working for my good, yeah. It is working, yeah. It is working. It is working, yeah. It is working. Écoutez, s'il vous plaît, je m'appelle Papa Kajambia. La musique ne s'arrête jamais. La bonne musique en nourriture de l'âme. À tout moment, oula. Turn my tears into dancing. I'm rejoicing. Sorrow may last for the night time. Joy in the morning. Wanomula beya leta COVID. Twajoga COVID. What the enemy meant for bad, the Lord is standing for my good. Abali batuzala wanga katibo na batide. Abali baluleta na balogo kuchalo batide tusaba gulenguliko. Skibidi bamba damba damba dambe. Hi. Oh yeah. Celebrating. Today is the day. My God will make you great. Don't you hesitate. Sha. All things are working for my good, yeah. All things are working for my good, yeah. It is working. It is is working, Chingolela. It is working. It is working.
Pick of the day on UBC.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
A weekly face-to-face conversation focusing on accountability, inspiration, information, and sensitization of the public from the various sources, such as inspirational profiles.
Having a disability is not inability.
Every Friday 9 p.m., it's one-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
Don't you see anywhere that you would give a credit in the fight against COVID?
My role as the owner of the country is not to, be preoccupied by giving credit to my servant.
We have said that if we are to talk to General Museveni, there must be certain conditions in place.
Is it true that you paid 5 million shillings to MPs that voted for?
Was brought to you by
Just take a polite loan of 200k to stock my shop. The signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hustle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? We're sorting. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our myth or from just the Nile.
We are the same people, and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people.
We are one.
Pamoja, we are one.
Use that word, pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 2024 at Ham Cinemax and the National Theatre. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
Juko.
Yo.
Wachikuwa. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Morning once again. Many thanks for sticking around to Good Morning Uganda. It's the GMU Friday edition, the hashtag that is for our Fridays here on the show. And many thanks for being glued on the national broadcaster. Now, we have a conversation that we're going to have this morning, and this one is talking matters social justice, which is a prerequisite for productivity. This is something that is very vital as we speak today. But I have three guests in studio this morning that we're going to have this interaction with. First, at the extreme left, I have Mawuku Moses, who's the Treasurer General, National Organization of Trade Unions. A very good morning, sir, and many thanks for joining us.
You're most welcome. Good morning, Ugandans. And we wish you a nice time.
Well, indeed, and we are happy to have you here as well. Then close to him is Ms. Atim Roda, who is the Executive Board Member and representative for the Public Sector Unions, still at the National Organization of Trade Unions, NOTU. A very good morning, ma'am, and many thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Uganda. Thank you, UBC. We hope to share something that will help all of us. Thank you.
And well, speaking of sharing things that will definitely help you, our dear viewer, an employee, let's say anyone in society to have social justice, that is something that we're going to be talking about this morning here on Friday. Now, closest to me is the Secretary General for the National Organization of Trade Unions, Mr. Richard Bingirwa, who is also part of our discussion this morning. A very good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, viewers and the workers of Uganda. Welcome for this program this morning.
All right, Mr. Bingirwa, as we speak of the National Organization of Trade Unions, NOTU, giving us an overview and the viewer out there, what does this stand for? What are the major objectives of the organization, and what does it seek to address?
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for hosting us this morning. In regard to NOTU, NOTU in full is obviously a National Organization of Trade Unions, and which was formed in 1973 under the Trade Union Decree, and later as amended by Labor Unions Act of 2006. Currently, in Uganda, we have 49 registered labor unions, but out of those, 37 affiliate to the National Organizations of Trade Union. Under the ILO standard, that makes it the most representative center which is supposed to speak for the workers in this country under C-144, Convention 144. So, as we speak now, NOTU is its role mandated by the law is a consultant for the workers. Its role is to advocate for the rights of the workers and to protect them against any kind of hazard. And principally, we are also supposed to influence policy. That's why you see all the time when the laws relating to workers are brought up, we are at the top of it. One of our roles is to ensure that we influence policy so that the laws and regulations and policies which are made are in favor of the workers in this country. And we speak for all the workers in this country, all the 17 million workers in this country. We do not segregate whoever.
Okay. And Mr. Tim Roda, I would wish to understand, and also my viewer, what social justice entails. If someone talks about social justice in society today, what should we know about it in its entirety?
Thank you so much. Picking up from SG, NOTU being the representative and the voice for the workers. The reason we advocate and speak and lobby for social justice, meaning that there should be fair balance in distribution of resources, opportunities. It entails access, access to services, access to opportunities, and considering all the groups. As a woman, I will speak for the women and really lobby that there is fairness in distribution of opportunities for women. Women should access the same opportunities like the men. We want to be appreciative to government for the Convention C190 that talks about harassment at workplace. This now helps women to be able to speak out when such incidences happen. Therefore, social justice in its fullness will help workers to access equally opportunities, services, and access to the distribution of whatever is there. Access to health, access to wealth, maybe inherited from the parents or from the spouses. So social justice really is something that we as NOTU are asking government and all stakeholders to embrace social justice, because it really supports fairness, fair distribution, and equal access to all services, to opportunities by all and for everyone, as a worker, as a person, a citizen of Uganda.
Let me get to Mr. Mauku Moses, who's the Treasurer General of the National Organization of Trade Unions. I wish to understand, do you believe that social justice initiatives are important in fostering a productive society?
Well, what I can say first would be to probably define what social justice means. Social justice, in simple terms, is the situation where every person in Uganda or elsewhere deserves equal economic, political, and social rights and opportunities. So the opportunities that we have should be shared adequately among all persons, and the freedoms that arise should equally be shared or enjoyed by all persons in Uganda and in all economies. The initiative, the cardinal initiative that we have, is actually to push for inclusion by advocating for wage equality, and also through fair trade movements and all competition. There must be a leveled ground for people to do business, for people to share the opportunities that are available for production. And probably the other thing is also to understand what production is. These appear to be simple terms, but sometimes we may not know the exact meaning of what production may require. Productivity requires that state or the quality of being productive of either nations or persons or companies or organizations or enterprises. So productivity underpins the principle of tripartitism. When we talk about productivity of a nation, productivity of an employer or a worker, productivity of a company, we are actually referring to the three big boys in the production process. In production, you must have government, you must have the employer, and you must have the worker. So these are the three partners that drive productivity of any economy. And their interest must be taken care of by each other. So where we have justice prevail, then things shall move better in as far as production of any economy is concerned. But where interests of certain parties or participants within the production process are not taken good care of, then production has hindrances. But on hindrances, I would probably ask the Secretary General to
Yes, because I was going to Mr. Richard here. Richard, when you look at the hindrances to social justice in society today, what, in your view, and in the things that you've observed as the Secretary General, have hindered social justice today?
Thank you, our host. First of all, I would like to clearly point out that in every community, everybody deserves to be treated better, like the social justice clarifies. Two is that the right to speak and the freedom of association in this country has hindered social justice because the workers have no right to speak. The employers are not allowing workers a right to speak. And therefore, how shall they enhance productivity? What does it mean? That means their views are not being put in consideration on how productivity should be improved. I want to urge employers, together with government, that we embrace freedom of association. We have very good laws, but now when it comes to implementation, it is a problem. We are hassling with the employers. So I want to, by just a mere point of clarification, that we should allow freedom of association. Let the unions operate at workplaces. Let's discuss. We need collective bargaining. Collective bargaining is a joint discussion where we come to agreement on how the company should operate. That's number one. Number two, I want also to look at the issue is when we disagree, we have industrial court in place. This industrial court has only 3 judges. Currently, we have a backlog of 3,000 cases. What does it mean? These workers who are dismissed from one place to the other, when they go to the other place and they still have cases, they are demoralized. At the end of the day, it affects their productivity. So we are requesting the government that please let's increase the number of judges at industrial court so that these cases move faster. That is another area where we believe that workers are not fairly being treated. How can we have a backlog of 3,000 cases? When will this worker get justice? This is not fair, and I believe that the government will listen to us and increase the number of judges at industrial court. Next is the issue of minimum wage. We need the minimum wage for the vulnerable workers. This is a key place. All the neighboring countries around us have minimum wage. The investments are not being affected. Why do we feel that Uganda investors will go away? So I believe that it is important. It is important. It is important we have minimum wage in place. And this will increase productivity. Countries neighboring to us, others have, even their GDP is more than gross domestic product is bigger than us. So we are appealing to government that by having minimum wage in place will not affect productivity, will not affect investment. Lastly, I want to appeal to Ugandans. The issue of corruption. Corruption is hindering so many issues, including affecting the salary increments for the workers of this country. We are crying, we have no resources. I don't believe that. If resources are managed properly, everybody in this country will have equal treat, will get his share accordingly. So I want to tell civil servants, private companies, please, the issue of corruption, which is hindering salary enhancements, which is hindering development, infrastructure. We want to talk as trade unions, we condemn this. And we want you outside there who is corrupt, please listen. We don't embrace corruption. Please, let's stop corruption if we are to have this country progress. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Mauk, do you believe there's a correlation between social justice and economic prosperity?
Well, it speaks a lot of volumes.
Okay.
When you want to progress economically, there must be social justice or justice to all. Social justice is provided for in many international standards and the local legislation here in Uganda. When it comes to issues of work, any economy can never develop without workers. And you cannot talk about progression of an economy without work. You cannot talk about production without work and without employers. Well, on the part of international standards, we have these standards. For example, we have Convention 87. Convention 87 of the ILO provides for freedom and liberties for workers and employers to associate, including formation and or joining trade unions of their own choice. And true, in Uganda, these conventions were ratified because it is one of the core 8 conventions, which is a must to all member states of the United Nations. We also have the other critical convention, that is Convention 98, which is providing on liberties and freedoms of freedom of association, still underpinning collective bargaining. Every person employed has the right to collective bargain, to negotiate your terms and conditions of employment and a trade union. But these things are absent from most of the companies that we have in Uganda, including the government itself. In 2019 or 2021, 2019, the public service unions took an initiative and engaged the government for a collective bargaining agreement, and indeed they negotiated using the Public Service Negotiation Machinery Act. But that collective bargaining agreement was not concluded on the part of government. And as we speak now, the public servants are not covered through a collective bargaining. Their terms are not negotiated between the employees and the government. They are predetermined by government, which is a deficit in the process of negotiation. And under the provisions of Section 24(1)(d) of the Labor Unions Act, save for other provisions in other relevant labor laws. So we want to urge government to embrace these international standards that they ratify and actually put them into use. The other thing is that if workers have no liberties, these liberties are written in pieces of law. If these laws are not being implemented adequately, we shall have problems in the levels of productivity, whether we want it or not. Because you cannot use a worker who is not happy to deliver to his or her best. And this, what makes workers more happier is for them to have terms and conditions of employment that are negotiated by their representatives. Unlike situations where an employee comes into office not knowing whether he has a job tomorrow or not. These terms deal with this mischief of where an employer determines whatever she is to do in his own organization without involving this person, who is also a key stakeholder.
Okay.
The worker.
Let me get to the General Secretary here real quick. You mentioned something very critical. Job security in Uganda is it's something that we really need to put attention to. Today as an employee, you could wake up easily and you lose your job without any prior warning whatsoever. When we talk about social justice, I want to believe this is something we can as well encrypt in this. How can we address such as an issue?
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to agree with you that employees are demoralized, especially with the recent ruling, Nasanga versus Stanbic Bank, whereby the Court of Appeal ruled that an employee can be dismissed with no reason. As a trade union, this ruling did not go well with us, and we are trying to work around. First of all, we have experts at DILO, and we have forwarded this case to be reviewed and advise us on the way forward. Secondly, we are also of the view as trade unions that maybe we have, because what is happening that at industrial court, cases are moving very well. When they reach Court of Appeal, that's when most of these cases are overturned. Now, what do? We are trying to say we shall put a proposal where can we have an appeal court of industrial court as a solution. because we believe industrial courts understand our cases better. We are not underlooking the Court of Appeal, but we are saying maybe if we have an appeal court at the industrial court level, this could help. That is one of the solutions we are looking at. But also, we are trying to tell employers that such a ruling is not in their favor, much as they are celebrating. Because now workers are Stanbic Bank. You expect them to have morale? They don't have morale because it is just by word, please, tomorrow don't come. And that's all. How do you expect such a worker to have morale?
And to be productive.
And be productive.
True.
So we are saying that we are reviewing that cause. We know there are some lacunas within the Labor and Arbitrations Act. And we know that the government is working closely to do many reforms in the laws. We appreciate that the government has kept track on this very, very keenly. You know, this year's theme for the Labor Day is access to justice, prerequisite to productivity. And I want to take this opportunity also to invite all the workers in Uganda to come to Fort Potro, where we shall be celebrating the International Labor Day this year, Mukabura Ground. So I want to invite you as National Organization of Trade Unions. We are having very many activities, pre-Labor Day activities, beginning from 29th. We are going to do the promotion of TVET activities. We shall do on 30th more activities in preparation for 1st May. So I want to invite you, all the workers, please come and we celebrate. This is a day we remember how the workers in Chicago went on strike and they were mistreated. And later the court ruled that unions should be formed, and that is how ILO eventually came in place. I want to say that please welcome.
Well, and then also let me get to Ms. Atim in here. Ms. Atim, Rhoda, when you look at social justice, how can individuals contribute, to having this social justice as something that is upheld in our communities today?
Thank you so much. First of all, for this conversation to benefit the theme of social justice, a prerequisite for productivity, we need to uphold social justice within our workplaces, even within the community. In this case, we have to really appreciate that inclusion is very important.
Okay.
We must put in place systems that enable people to participate. That is when people will see the benefit of social justice. We are looking at women, we are looking at boys, we are looking at girls, we are looking at the disabled, we are looking at the elderly. All these are citizens of Uganda. The elderly, there are some who are still working. Some are close to retirement. They even don't see the hope for their retirement benefits. And yet we are talking about access to services. I mean, sharing, fair provision of distribution of services. This is what we need to really embrace. We are here telling the workers out there to participate in activities that will help them to negotiate for their rights. We must make sure that a worker or a citizen outside there has access to health care, has access to other services, education. To mention, we have the private sector and the public sector. You will find that children in the private schools are performing better than children in public schools. What is the problem? And yet we want all these children to be educated. So for a person, a citizen, to really benefit and to really see that my government is providing for me, there should be systems that enable access to resources, access to opportunities. We look at loans for universities. Some students are not able to access it. You look at widows. Some widows have stayed outside there. They have not got the benefits that they should have got from their spouses. And yet, we are all citizens of Uganda. Where is the fairness?
Okay.
The issue is fairness, access, equal access to all, for all of us, because we all live in the same country, under the same sunshine, the same weather and climate, which we say weather and climate for all.
Indeed, and henceforth seeking for social justice. Let me get quickly into your parting shots. I'll start with Mr. Mauku Moses. In your parting shots, what should we do as a country moving forward, and what message can you send out there to all organizations that are employing quite a number of Ugandans, also putting in mind that next week is Labour's Day?
Thank you, Comrade. I will begin on the note of appreciating the government of the Republic of Uganda for all the efforts they have put in to ensure there is social justice.
Okay.
I cannot blame government for having no social justice. We have relatively adequate social justice mechanisms.
Okay.
The only pitfall is implementation. When it comes to issues of productivity, productivity requires social justice, requires justice for workers, requires justice for employers. But we have relatively good laws. The government of Uganda has ratified most of the, actually all the 8 conventions have been ratified, and to a biggest extent domesticated into acts of parliament and the national constitution. However, we have this problem of inadequate implementation of the legislation that is available. If the available legislation is put into adequate implementation, we see Uganda flourishing.
Okay.
My brother was talking about issues of corruption. My brother is talking about issues of inadequacies in the government agencies which are meant to offer services in regard to justice, and they are lacking. I can also cite an example of...
In a minute, as we're summing up.
Oh yes, an example of the inadequacies presented by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. All the countries surrounding here and in the world over, they have ministries of labor are independent ministries. But in Uganda, we are operating as a department under gender, under ministry. And yet the function is immense. We have a mismatch where we have labor officers undertaking a very critical role in as far as labor administration is concerned. They are recruited and administered by Ministry of Local Government, which has no expertise because of decentralization. So I want to call on government to, one, re-centralize the function of labor and consider making the ministry responsible for labor an independent ministry in Uganda, so as to address issues of social protection, to address issues of social justice for workers more adequately. I submit.
Well, thank you very much. Let me get quickly to Ms. Atim Roda, who's the Executive Board Member Representative for the Public Sector Unions at NOTU. In your parting shots, what message do you have to the organizations and the government?
Thank you so much. First, appreciation to government as the biggest employer in this country, and to other employers, private and individuals. It is something that we need to embrace. Ideally, social justice is lacking in our employment sector. We therefore require or request the employers to improve on the working environment of the workers, to provide training opportunities for the workers, and to also adapt to the technology and the development equipment, so that workers, as they perform their duties, have the morale to work and really feel that their services are appreciated. This makes them to work ably, and of course a person will know that even if I am on the lower side, I will be improved. If the training is adequate, he he will get the opportunity. If there is unfair treatment, he will get justice.
Okay.
So that is an encouragement and appreciation to government being the biggest employer. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now, lastly, from Mr. Richard Bingirwa, who's the Secretary General of the National Organization of Trade Unions. In your parting shots, what message do you give?
Thank you so much for hosting us. First of all, I would like to emphasize and also request government that the level of tripartitism should be enhanced. That means the employer, the government, and the workers should constantly consult each other so that we can see how we enhance productivity in this country. Secondly, I would also urge you employers that please let's embrace freedom of association in wherever we are. The right to speak, I must repeat this. Let's allow our workers into the running of the organization. They are part and parcel of the organization. Let us not isolate capital from labor. These ones work together, and we should really ensure we enhance. Lastly, as a way of trying that we collaborate and network widely, NOTU has now installed a toll-free center, which is going to be launched very soon next month, whereby workers will be able to ring wherever they are and let us know how we can help them. We are also going to establish a response team which will be able to run around and find out what is happening in every particular place. At the time we are launching this toll-free, we shall publicize it widely so that everybody is able to access us wherever we are. Otherwise, thank you so much, and I wish you a happy Labor Day, and I welcome you to Mukabura grounds in Fort Portal. We shall be there. See you there. Thank you.
Well, social justice is a prerequisite for productivity. Next week, we shall be giving you the live broadcast of the celebrations for the International Labour's Day live from Mukabura grounds in Fort Portal. That will be Wednesday, 1st of May, 2024. Keep it. Good Morning Uganda Friday edition. Coming up is sports with Ruben Pima Chibirango. Good morning.
Pick of the day on UBC.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
A weekly face-to-face conversation focusing on accountability, inspiration, information, and sensitization of the public from the various sources, such as inspirational profiles.
Having disability is not inability.
Every Friday, 9 p.m., it's one-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
Don't you see anywhere that you would give a credit in the fight against COVID?
My role as the owner of the country is not to, be preoccupied by giving credit to my servant.
We have said that if we are to talk to General Museveni, there must be certain conditions in place.
Is it true that you paid 5 million shillings to MPs that voted for?
Was brought to you by
Just take a polite loan of 200k to stock my shop. The signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hassle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? We're so tingy. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.